time was created on day one of creation, then how did it exist before the world's creation?
First of all, there's a letter from the rebbe, an incredibly scholarly letter from the rebbe, which is a few pages long, 2 pages long, 2.5 pages long, which the rebbe wrote twice. The first time he wrote the letter to Rabbi Yossi, and then the rebbe wrote the same letter word for word a few years after to Rabbi Hecht alav shalom. And the rebbe added several more paragraphs where he talks about time and the theory of relativity. This letter is remarkable. It's remarkable. It's kedarkei b'kodesh of the rebbe. It's a chock full of bakiyas and cherifas. If someone would decipher that letter, you can make a book out of it. Literally, just the sources and so on. The basis for the letter is that there's a sefer called Sur Merah Vaseitev, or as the Rebbe calls it, Vaseitev, from the Zidzishever, who writes the following. He writes that he saw in the sefer the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe said that the Mezritcher Magid said that Zman is a nivra, the time is a creation. And he says he doesn't believe. I don't believe the Mittler Rebbe said it, the Mezritcher Magid said it. Why? Because it says in Chazal, based on a pasuk, that before the Eibishter created time, there was something called Seder Zman, the order of time. Rav Yossi sent the Rebbe a copy of the Sefer and asked him his opinion. And the Rebbe was very disappointed when he saw that the Zidzishever wrote that he doesn't believe. In other words, Alter Rebbe says the Maggid said it, he doesn't believe it. And the Rebbe wrote a whole letter explaining the answer to this question about Zman and Seder Zmanim. In that letter, the Rebbe talks about several points. Number one, he talks about the difference between Zman Atzmi and Zman Hamoneh. That means the concept of time in theory versus minutes of time as we count them. And that the latter idea, Zman Hamoneh, is relative time. Everybody has their own clocks. And the Rebbe said the whole theory of relativity, which has to do with mass and motion and time, has to do with the second concept of Zman Hamoneh, not Zman Atzmi. And he also addresses the concept of Zman and Seder Zmanim, time and the order of time. And of course, the idea that time is a creation. In other words, there's 3 levels, in effect. There is a level where there's no time at all. You have Yemei Eilam, you have Shanim Kadmeniyas, there's a number of levels. And then there's a level where there's no time at all. Then there's a level where there's something called Seder Zmanim, or order of time, but there's no actual time, which is a concept in Ruchnius and Atzilus. And then there's a concept of Zman itself, time itself. And that's basically the answer to the question about Alpayim Shana Kod Moteiro, the Eilam, 2,000 years. So of course, in most by Chassidus, when they bring this Ma'ameh Chazal, they immediately interpret that it doesn't mean Zman, it means Madreges. Alefcha Chochma, Alefcha Bina. The 2,000 years means 1,000 Madreges for Chochma, 1,000 Madreges for Bina. The Torah comes before the world, like it says in the Mitzvah Maimer. That the Midas have a connection to the world. Like it says, Eilam Chesed Yibon. When the Eibishter created the world, he first created Midas HaChesed. Or alternatively, he created the world with Midas HaChesed. And Apayim Shana Kod Moteiro Li'el, the Torah comes from Chochma and Bina, which is higher than the Midas. But in addition, there is the concept that I'm mentioning here, that before the creation is a concept of Seder Zmanim, and Alpayim Shana Kod Moteiro Li'el means that Torah is earlier than the world, not in actual years of thousands of years, but in Seder Zmanim, in the order of time. And the 2,000 years corresponds to the Madreges of Chochma and Bina. There are many Medrashim, Memory Chazal, that speak about time before. There's a famous Medrash that says that the world existed for 974 generations before Adam Rishon. And then from Adam Rishon until Moshe Rabbeinu, 26 generations. So the Moshe Rabbeinu was the 1,000th generation. And like I said, there's many other Memory Chazal to this effect. There is also the Sefer Haflah, Sefer Pli, I believe, from Machon ben Akona, that speaks about Nun Allah from Yevelis, 50,000 jubilees, which also is a concept of time, at least to some degree, before the time we have. So the Rebbe, in one of his Tshuvas B'Yurim, on Achei Temimim, I believe, writes that we hold, based on the Kisvei HaArizal, that before Bereishis Bara Elokim there was no time. That means to say that the world is 5,776 years old and not older. And the idea that there were worlds before that, Beini Elamus Machrivan, which is brought from the Tiferes Yisrael and so on, that there were orders of creation that were destroyed, and then on top of the bones and the ashes of the old, the Eibishter made new, and so on, which some people bring as a way of explaining fossils and so forth and so on. The Rebbe holds very clearly, based on the writings of the Arizal, who says that all of these concepts of time and all of these concepts of worlds are all ruchnius, they're not actual. In other words, there's no actual time before the year 0 or the year 1. And any concept of time which is found in Midrash Chazal and in Zohar and so on, that indicate the contrary, are all in Yonim Ruchnius.